Hello everybody, welcome to a very special episode of the Big Reviewski where I'm delighted to say that I'm joined by Colm Meaney. Colm, it's a real pleasure to have you and thank you so much for taking the time.
Thanks for having me. Thanks.
Congratulations last night in the award.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it was a good night in London last night. There's some great people there, Sharon Shannon, and you know, it was those award shows can sometimes be a bit tedious and long, but it was actually brief and entertaining and fun. Yeah.
And very well deserved. We won't look back. Well, maybe a bit later we'll look back at some other stuff. We look forward. The last fight, congratulations on it. Really, really loved it. Watched it there. Got the feeling of kind of like an Irish wake. You've got a bit of comedy in there. It's a bit sad and very reflective as well. When you're working with it there, it's unbelievable cast. You got Michael Huseman in there. You've got Michael Hatton, Niamh Algar. In terms of the scripts you're sent now, and you've worked in so long in Irish film, do you notice a change in terms of the writing and the type of films that are being made now than, let's say, what you would have previously done?
I think it's a very good time. Like the last, I suppose, 5 to 10 years, there's been some the writing I think is a lot better, and scripts tend to be more, if you like, camera ready. Where they're in the past you maybe got scripts that had that potential but weren't quite there yet, and it's very hard to fix stuff like that when you're actually shooting it. You think you can you fix it when you shoot it, but a script needs to be ready, camera ready, as we say, and I find that's certainly the scripts I've read, I've been involved with in the last few years are much that seems to be much more the case now. I don't know if that's because of better training or just a little bit more experience, maybe, but it certainly seems to be the case.
And I love the scenes in particular in this. You spend a lot of time with Eleanor, a young actress, really, really good. You're great.
Is she wonderful?
She's great. Really,
yeah,
really
Eleanor's
love the scenes.
a real discovery. She's a real talent.
I love the line, was it, Bonnie and Clyde, look it up, it's a film, just in terms of like the generational gap. And Aoife's debut feature as well. Coming back, and I always get the feeling from looking at your career, you make a conscious effort to maybe you might do a few films abroad, and then you act. Is that the case? You actively seek out young talent, young Irish talent to come back and work with?
Not really, I don't have a kind of a plan that every couple of years I do a picture here. It's just that's the way it's fallen out over the last few years. I suppose 15, 20 years. If I get a script, and I'm always happy to look at Irish scripts, and I like it and it's good, and I have a good relationship with the people involved, and I'll always do it. I enjoy and learn from working with first time directors. It's something I've always tried to do. And talents like Aoife and all that are great to establish a relationship with and to work with.
In terms of the character, I got the vibe that Crowley and another one of your old characters played, Jerry Lynch of Intermission, but they definitely get on. They definitely have a pint together and chat.
Oh, they would.
Because he's a stickler in this film, we'll say.
Yeah. And I think neither would be the brightest or the sharpest tack in the box. You know what I mean? They'd be, men of regulation. Yeah. But definitely, I agree with you. I hadn't thought of that they'd definitely be two guys who would get on, yeah.
You definitely don't have a type, just a lovely, happy coincidence that they're by the book. I'd say in their head they think they're doing things right, but bit of.
And even though one of them's very Dublin and one of them's very, very, very country, you know what I mean, they still get on, I think, yeah.
Looking back here, you said you got the Lifetime Achievement Award. I think there's such a great deal of love still for the Barrytown trilogy and the roles you've done there. Like even whenever it's on TV, it's always one of the things on Twitter is always trending. People just love those films so much. And you must get it still all the time, people coming up to you and saying lines in particular. Is there one that you love the most? I'm curious.
Line-wise?
Yeah.
I was always very fond of the line from The Commitments where I asked Joey the Lips if he ever saw Elvis doing drugs in Vegas, and Joey says no, and I'm delighted to hear that because I knew Elvis didn't do drugs, and I turn to Jimmy Jr. and call him and say, and you malignant little bollocks. for some reason that line stuck in my head, and I always it was just such a it just rolled off the tongue so beautifully. And as for you, you malignant little bollocks, that was. But there are. I mean, people, I get them all the time. Like last night at this awards thing in London, a guy asked me, "How did you get here tonight on a Suzuki?"
No way.
Yeah.
I love the fact. I mean, even anecdotally, I remember I was over in the Euros in Poland, and you're just having a drink in a bar, and on the tricolour there, I suppose a ride is out of the question. It's just, the lines to take on these world of their own. They just travel. Yeah. Is there anywhere like around the world that like people have come up to you and said, "Oh, I can't believe it. Oh, I remember you in this," or Colm, or have you heard any strange experience of people quoting back to you where you would have expected to have it?
Not particularly, not location-wise, but it's just, I mean, you're right. It is constant, I mean, and it seems to have, like it's still, it's been passed down because we're, a generation or almost two away from when we made it. You know what I mean? So, and it seems to have been passed on from people still watch it. Like people told me that they were just like last night. Were telling me in London that they were just watching The Van last week. And it was like, wow, really interesting.
I think there's just a great deal of warmth to your performance, and just the characters are so well written that we see so much of ourselves in them.
Yeah. I mean, Roddy's writing, is genius. It always was. And the books obviously were prime for becoming films because they were so dialogue driven. I mean, the three books are completely dialogue driven. There's very little narrative going on in there. So they were prime material for adaptation as films.
You mentioned the three. There is a third. I think The Guts kind of goes back to the Rabbit family and the characters there. Has there ever been any discussions or of maybe taking that character, or maybe going back, or would you be interested in all of you move past that?
No. Anything Roddy does, I'd always be interested in. I mean, Roddy's a genius. I'm not that I'm aware of this, about that in particular. Roddy and I talked at one point briefly about the 2 pints. The two boys in the bar talking, and he wrote. I mean, I did a thing when the trilogy was the Dublin Book of the Year. We did a thing at Vicar Street. It was a great night, I remember. And Roddy wrote a little 2-page thing for the two of us to do, on the 2 pints. Yeah. And they're just two great characters, I mean, I remember at one point, my character tends to fancy older women, and he was going on about how he really, fancied Christine Lagarde, the head of the IMF. Yeah. And it was just sort of completely out of the blue, but it also gives you an idea of how these guys. I mean, he knew who she was, the head of the IMF, and so he obviously reads a little bit about the state, the economic state of the world and all that. He's a man of knowledge.
Well, speaking as a fan, I would give anything to see that happen. There was a cracking story. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I was reading that your good friend Patrick Stewart was pitching hard for the cameo in The Van. I read an interview, said, "I want to be in The Van. You want you to put in a good one with Stephen." What was the crack there? Did it just fall to the wayside?
That's the first I've heard of that.
Really?
Yeah, that's the first I've heard of that.
We call him a liar.
Yeah. Well, no, Patrick never. No, there was. I know Donald McCann, who unfortunately died 20 years ago now. But Donald was very interested in it. I know, and talked to Stephen Frears and. There was a funny story there actually. Stephen's an extraordinary genius in many ways, but at the time he knew Donald wanted to do The Van, and Stephen got a letter from Jeremy Thomas, who was Bertolucci's producer, and Bertolucci was interested in using me for his next film, which was Steel and Beauty, I think, in the film set in Tuscany, and wants to know what Stephen thought and stuff. I mean, these producers, they talk behind your back all the time, So anyway, Stephen, and he told me this over lunch very pleasantly. Stephen decided to tell Jeremy Thomas and Bertolucci that no, I wasn't right for it at all. You don't want to call him. You don't want to call him for that. No. I'll tell you, the actor you want to play that role is Donald McCann. Yeah. And I looked and I said, what? Yes, I would have given anything to work with Bertolucci. What are you
Jesus.
talking about? And he says, no, I thought it was very clever of me. He says, I got rid of 2 birds with 1 stone, right? You know, so Donald's working with Bertolucci and I still have you.
Jesus. That's why you always be in a room with a producer when they're talking
man,
about you.
I tell you.
Speaking of Patrick, spent so many good years on Star Trek, and he's going back. I think he's going back doing the TV show.
Yes, he is. Him and Jonathan are both.
And there's talk of, I think Tarantino is hovering around. He wants to finish off in a Star Trek film.
Oh, really?
If you ever got the call, would you be interested in taking that, or maybe going back, or is that done? Or
Oh, I'd have to think about that. I mean, I hung up my spacesuit a long time ago.
you still fit into it. You still look grand. Yeah,
I don't know. It'll be. I tell you, certainly not the first couple of episodes, because that was like kind of getting into lycra, you know. Yeah, I mean, look. If it was, you know, interesting project, well written, you know, I wouldn't want to do it for the sake of doing it, but I'd sure have a look at it. Yeah.
Oh, I tell you what, I'd say there's still so much love for the character because there's so much empathy and warmth. He's such a great written character. I mean, I love that scene when he has the PTSD and he sings, is it the minstrel boy?
That's right,
I love that scene in particular. So congrats on that.
Thank you.
Another
it was great because I was able to introduce terms like bollocks and all that, which you know were unknown in America at the time. And had they been known to mean what they mean, I wouldn't have been allowed to use it because of censorship. I mean, you can't even say "goddamn" on network television in America.
I never would have thought of that, actually. Yeah, just the use of it. And obviously, people run and make they kind of brought the two worlds. I think there's a group that's Roddy, Doyle, Star Trek. So you were the glue that brings the two together. Another one of your performances I loved was as McGuinness. I thought it was fantastic. And I know you're living abroad, but you still keep in touch. Yeah. What do you make of the crack that's gone up there? Because I think the last time, when that was released 2016, that was probably the last time Stormont even sat. It's insane to me, but.
It is. It's a crazy situation. I mean, I'm of a Republican persuasion. I always was, and I just find it ironic when we get lectured about democracy by people from, like, for example, the DUP, who were basically ran an apartheid state in the north of Ireland for 50 years, and then people went out to demonstrate for civil rights in a peaceful way. They were beaten off the streets by these same people, and then which caused the escalation of the whole thing. I mean, we forget that in the South. I think we think of the IRA campaign as it's called a campaign of murder and all that. And I wasn't a supporter of I mean, I would have been of an official persuasion, as it were, the official Sinn Féin line. But I mean, we forget, I think, in the Republic that it began as a civil rights movement. People demanding civil rights. They didn't have civil rights. It was an apartheid state, the north of Ireland, and these are the same people who then lecture everybody about democracy. It's absurd. It's like the world turned on its head, and I don't know. I mean, I just find it bizarre that I mean, I think the DUP are in trouble. I think they've shot themselves in the foot. They've supporting Brexit was I mean, it makes absolutely no economic sense. I mean, the North of
Northern Ireland anyway. They wanted
the North of Ireland had the best of both worlds. Access to EU markets and UK markets. But there's this sort of anything, and also to suggest that anything that causes a separation between the North of Ireland and the UK, there's lots of things that separate them, including their ban on abortions and gay marriage. Which the DUP won't have, which is legal in the rest of the UK. Isn't that a difference? Isn't that creating a border?
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
I mean, it's just the inconsistencies in the position are just, and of course, you can't say that. I believe that successive governments here and people in the South generally have bent over backwards to facilitate the unionist position, and I don't think it's been reciprocated.
Yeah.
And if it's not reciprocated, there's no movement forward, So
we'll bring it back to last right and close up.
Well, you got me started there. I wasn't expecting that.
I was thoroughly engaged with it. I was nodding along. Forgot here to talk about a movie. And it's sort of a sad note. The film is such a wonderful kind of tribute to as I said, awake life and loss and moving on, different stage of your life. I remember working a few months ago when I heard the sad news of Pat Laffin passed away, and I wrote that story myself, and I've never worked the shifts and seen so many positive comments and love and affection for a man I think, and just from his roles, they mean so much to people. And you would have known him from the 70s back in your theatre days. Do you have any particular fond memories of working with him in particular? 'Cause
Pat was, I mean, he was a mentor to me.
Yeah.
He was an extraordinary man. He, you know, he was the one who told me when I was in drama school, he said, look, you don't worry about being a star. That's all nonsense. He says, you have to be a working actor, a good working character actor. And that was the best advice I ever got, you know. But Pat was extraordinarily supportive for young people all his life, you know. It's a reason why going back to working with first-time directors and young directors, that was Pat.
Yeah.
He was a wonderful mentor to young actors. And that's why you're seeing all that, you know, affection for him.
And even that scene, you know, the bird snip, that's still quoted every day. There isn't a day goes by in daily life when people aren't. It's like a cultural moment for Irish cinema.
There was I suppose about 10 or 12 years ago, I was myself and Pat were in town. And I don't know what we were doing. We were on Capel Street, and I mean this little tribe of like young fellas from between 5 and 10 started after us. You know. Like, and Pat and I, for fuck's sake, and we started running, and they were running after us. And then there's the art gallery there on Capel Street. What was it called? I can't remember what it was called. But anyway, we ducked in there, and what's his name? Alan something. Anyway, he said to us, get in here quick. And we got in behind a wall that had the paintings on the back. So we ducked in behind the kids come up to the door and look at where the fuck we are. So they hang outside for about, must have been 20, 25 minutes. And finally we look out, we think it's all clear, you know. And we go out the door, get about 20 yards down the street. Here they come again, you know. And Pat was like, for fuck's sake, this is can we go nowhere? You know? But he was tormented, you know. He really was.
They probably weren't even a thought in their dad's head at the time that
film
was released. You know?
Absolutely, yeah.
And going forward, we've got one I'm very excited about, Gangs of London, just because I love Gareth Evans, I love the Raid films. You can tell us about that. I know you're
I just do a cameo in it. I'm the like the godfather of the crime family, and I'm basically shot in the first shot. I'm assassinated, which kicks off a whole thing. So my stuff in it is all kind of flashbacks to when I was alive. So when the show starts, I'm dead, basically. And but it's a tremendous piece of writing. I haven't seen the whole episode. I've just been, as I say, doing loopy, you know, 80-hour work posting, you know, and. It looks fantastic. It's incredibly violent.
Great. Love the Raid. That's all I want to hear. Incredibly violent. Sold.
Right.
So many films, Colm. I love yours. Jesus, I could talk to you for about an hour, probably about the making of Con Air, because that looked like one hell of a production to be involved on as well.
It was.
Yeah, good crack.
A lot of good nights, yeah. Great bunch of guys, you know. I mean, and crazy guys, but delightful, you know, from Buscemi to Malkovich, you know, to Ving Rhames, all those guys, great characters.
I'd say John Cusack as well. It's probably a few stories as well. Yeah. That's another film that whenever it's on, it's just like it's just elevated to a different plane. People just love that film. I mean,
because it was an action adventure film, but it was a well written, well crafted, good story action film. It wasn't just about all the action. I mean, there was tremendous action in it. Particularly my car, which I was very upset about. But
that great line was it? It's beautiful. No, sunsets are beautiful. This is effing spectacular. I love the delivery of that line.
Wow, you remember more than I do.
Oh, jeez, I'm one of those people that watch it every time it's on, so I can quote that and all your other films back, but I'll keep you here all day. Final question: you've done so many like varied roles throughout your years, and Jesus, I probably quote them all verbatim. Is there a figure from Irish history you'd love to play? Anyone, because you don't begin.
There's not so much a character I'd love to play, but I always feel we missed the boat a bit on not finding a great film about 98, 1798. You know, when that we were coming like through the 90s, I talked to various people about. I'd love to have made a film that commemorated 1798, and particularly kind of, you know, in a way that opens. I mean, it's a great story, you know. The rebellion itself, but also the fact that Irish republicanism they talk about sectarianism. Irish republicanism was founded by Protestants and Presbyterians. All of the leaders of '98 were Protestant and Presbyterian. So the ideology of Irish republicanism was the Enlightenment and French Revolution and Presbyterian values. So that was the foundation of Irish republicanism, and I think it would be wonderful to find a vehicle that would make people aware of that. And there's events like that throughout Irish history that I would like to be involved in somehow just
telling our story.
Telling the story, yeah, very much so. And rather than a specific character,
So when you get the $100 million offer from Tarantino to do Star Trek, you can take that money and produce that yourself, or direct it yourself, right, like that. Colm Meaney, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. I really enjoyed The Last Ride. Loved your company. And
thank you so much. I think it's a terrific film, and it's going to, I hope it does well here,
I think it will. I say, everybody, thanks for watching. Go see The Last Ride when it's released in Irish cinemas. It's great. And once again, Colm Meaney, thank you.
Welcome aboard this flight to Dublin.
Are you going home for the Christmas?
My mother's funeral.
I'm doing something similar. My brother, he's in with the luggage.
Hi, Louis. It's cold weather.
Mum's gone forever. No, there's just you to look after me.
Yeah.
Was it homemade?
No.
I have very sad news.
I don't know the guy.
Why would he have you down as his next of kin if you weren't?
They sent him here for you.
And they cannot send them back?
He's no budget for that.
The 21st is his brother's funeral.
Get him here to me for then. Are you sure you can't postpone it just a few days?
In a word, no.
I'm not driving to Northern Ireland.
I want to go to Rosslyn.
You want to go all the way across the country there. What's that?
Eco-friendly, biodegradable, very safe.
The only way to tell if someone is your real friend is to spend lots of hours in a row with them.
Do you like living in...
I have a girlfriend.
Well done.
I cannot heat up your food.
Oh, no, sorry, not allowed in
3 minutes. We're nearly there.
Do you need this?
Jesus.
Take whatever you want. There's 28 quid in the till.
No, that's our dad's old air gun.
It's a gun.
Bonnie and Clyde.
We're being charged with armed robbery and illegal possession of a corpse.
Excuse me?
It's a Volvo. It's got a budgie coffin on the roof.
Coffin for budgies?
No, not a coffin for budgies, a coffin with budgies on it.
I don't know what I was thinking. We gotta turn ourselves in.
Stop the car!
Sometimes you have to do what you think's right, even though other people say it isn't.
This has become an international incident.
Are we good?
Casually.
You take your out.
Are you sick too? You little...
Run, Louis!
Come back and let me hit you!
Mary, do you think I'm a coward?
I think you're a hero.
Are they not trying to do a decent thing in their own way?
Let's do this together. Grab my hand and then one step at a time.
Whatever impulse made you come here today, cherish it, because that is love.